Hi everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today is Schwinn Bike Maintenance Day. Every year, all of our bikes get a good going over, sometimes in between. The red bike is my bike. It got a lot of maintenance last year. I was able to polish it and wax it and put it away. Somebody drove it through some mud late year or early this spring, and it needs some cleaning up. But in doing that, he found out that my rear hub needed some work on it, and I had some of my fender brackets were bent, so they straightened that out. I just saw today one of my rear ones needs straightened out, so I'm going to have him take care of that. And let me show you what we found. So these are reproductions of the 1950s bikes, and these were done anywhere from the late 90s to 2000. These specific bikes were only made for 1 year, from 2000 to 2001, before Pacific Bikes bought out the Schwinn and moved them over to China. So this is a Schwinn Cruiser 4, and this is a original that my husband bought right after he bought my red one. He found out that was it. They were no longer being manufactured, and the bike shop had one left. At the time I had a teenage daughter, so we wanted to have an extra, and we picked this one up the other day on Craigslist for like $100 with the wrong seat. So I have a seat coming. It is out for delivery right now. We're waiting for the postman. It came with the original bracket and post, just like a 10-speed replacement seat. We were able to find somebody on eBay that was parting out one of these. These bikes, if you can find a whole bike for under a few $100s and you like a comfortable bike, these are considered beach cruisers or cruisers. We have a yellow one that is single speed. They all have a coaster style brake, so that means you pedal backwards, and they're very, very smooth and comfortable. They have what's called a Typhoon or balloon tire. This is a 26 by 2.125. They're very large tires, and that's the thing that we didn't like about the older bikes that actually came from the 50s. They didn't have the balloon bikes. They're like 1.75. Hold on, Trey. We've added baskets to all the bikes except for the original. I think we were missing a bracket, and he had to fabricate that last week. Not this one. Well, it's on the other one in the garage. This is a Schwinn Cruiser 7. Now, Schwinn at the time was located in Boulder, Colorado, and apparently only Phantoms were made in the USA and the mountain bike styles at that time, and they started outsourcing things, and then they just let the company go. So you can see there's real nice smooth tires on these. They ride in all surfaces. They're really great for us being out in the country for dirt roads. And we recently looked at a redone bike from the 50s, and again, it had those skinny tires, and they said that will not work for us being out on the gravel. We have a gravel driveway and a paved driveway. So this is one of his favorites. A thing to look for if you are in the market for buying these bikes is this head badge. There's a production date right here. This one was built on the 336th day of 0, which is 2000. My husband's has the date code and then a 7. His was only made and manufactured from 1997. It was the only year it could possibly be, because they didn't make the bike in 96 or 87, you know, anything like that. So the 7 meant 1997. Another thing to look for, we're going to be turning this bike over today. The kickstand wants to slip down, so to keep from having an accident while pedaling, they've been strapping it up for almost a year till they could get into it. There was a blog style post about replacing everything that's going on in there. So we're going to flip this over and show you what to do about that. So on the modern bikes that you can pick up at like a Meijer store, Target, we've seen them at Walmart, that head badge is white and there is no date code stamped on it, because it is even been sold out now from Pacific Bikes to somebody else. A Schwinn has a serial code on the pedal hub of this age. On some of the older ones, it might be on the rear or somewhere else on the bike frame. So keep an eye out for that. if you have a missing head badge, to know that it's an authentic Schwinn still at that point. Now this bike, that kickstand, it works, but as you ride, it wants to slip back down. There's a roll pin here that actually is worn, and it needs to be removed and replaced with a new one. And I'm gonna film my husband and the boy doing that. This bike, you can see it's slightly cocked sideways here. My son has been moving baskets from different bikes. I don't know if that had something to do with it. This bike had a crash, so they want to see about straightening this part of the crank out because they bent it in a high-speed crash in the woods. And right down here, this fender bolt is hitting the tire. So they want to take a link out of the chain. It's had enough miles on it at this point that it's stretched. So they're going to shorten that up so that the tire is sitting back up to this fender where it's supposed to be and not rubbing on that.
Quite unused.
Yeah.
That was a good deal for $100.
Yeah. Husband says quite unused on that green bike for $100. This showed up right after we quit filming. I don't know what the deal is with this. Somebody added that after, because these bikes have the post reflector for the rear, and this bike, we were saying how unused it was. The guy said it was in somebody's basement, like maybe cleans out estate sales. The yellow on this is untouched. Ours is turned brown. The story of it being a basement kind of checks out because it's a little bit more rusted than just our bikes that were in the garage. But the age of the bike, the paint of it's real good. So Trey's gonna put this on here.
Threads them on like that to pinch
Okay, so for the first thing you have to do is mount that on there.
Yep.
Okay. I was concerned when I first saw this seat not having a post on it. And then it was no concern, no worry at all. Now I did notice there's a framework on these seats. We tend to grab the seat to move it on the other bikes. This one's okay. Let's see here. We've been grabbing the bikes and it's coming out of there, and I don't know how we're gonna ever get that pulled tight and tucked back in there. But on two of the bikes it's doing that. Well, that's the assembly. Maybe you'd have an easier time doing that. Do you want to work on it upside down?
Yeah. That's the only way to do it.
Okay. So on this bike, specifically about this seat, is it says Schwinn on the back, and there's these grommets going through there. On our heavy duty, it's printed. It's not in cursive or script. Thanks for doing this. Yep. Trey is our in-house bike guy. He corrected me. It was my front bearings on the red bike that needed some work. And I've had that bike since probably 2000 or 2001. Yeah. Oh, I see. You can put it wherever you want. Yeah. And make sure, yeah. Okay. So the Schwinn heavy duty is the first one. And what prompted this is all a lifetime of going to Mackinac Island and renting the bikes up there, seeing the bikes that they use on the island for the hotels. The heavy duty is what they use there. It's got everything heavier about it. The pedals are a different style. The tires are more aggressive and aged. We have a pair of winter tires that he had for this brand new, and my son was running them. The spokes are thicker and heavy duty. It's just a nice bike. And he said
single speed coaster brake.
Yeah, single speed coaster brake. Yep. And this says 229.7. So the 229th day of 7. We noticed So this one,
Now they're facing the same
336 of 0.
way. What do you want, Trey?
That means the 336th day of 2000. And we found out this one, 301 0, was made, was it this one?
Same day.
It's the other one. This one says 252 0. So, the other green step through, like they said, okay, we're going to do step through or ladies' bikes that day.
You weren't sold the same dealership.
Yep. Different dealership. So now we have 4 green and silver bikes, 1 red and silver bike. The Cruiser 7 is our only one in burgundy and black, and the heavy duty is our only one. And now we have 7 Schwinn Cruisers for the entire family as everybody grows up and gets big enough to ride.
Show the number plate.
Here we go. There's the 2 step throughs. I
Say 301.
think this is the 3rd year we've owned this one. Yeah. 3010. 3010. Same day. And I think we him and hawed a little bit about the second bike in. That's the one we just got. And he saw it was the same production day. And we started looking at the prices of parts and said, ah, it's a good deal. Let's go ahead and do it. I think the other bike was $150 for the pair of bikes. So we kind of had to deal with inflation on that.
Years ago, though.
Yeah. Everything's up now. The thing about these bikes is they are smooth, and with a little maintenance you can keep them riding like smooth. Being out in the country, we had a lot of jiggling and noise going on, and my husband went through and said that even just from the time my bike was built new, there were washers that were missing or bolts that weren't tight. So if you do get a used one, spend a little time doing some maintenance on it. It has a Nexus rear hub and Shimano shifting system that just makes this really nice. And like I said, the wide tires, the fenders are real nice to have because they keep you, if you are riding in a wet environment, clean.
This seat and on the heavy duty is different than those. Mine goes right over the tube.
Yeah.
And on that one, kind of hard to see it. But it's also.
All right, we'll take a peek at it in a bit. So for us, we ride these loops so that out in the country, we don't even have to go out on the road if we don't want to, and the kids can still ride their bikes. This is what he was talking about. The whole seat style is a bit different. It's clamping here on the sides and pinching the post this way, where on the other bikes, it's going up and clamping down that way. Slight adjustment. We've noticed when we've been riding, sometimes the seat, if you hit a bump, will go like this, and that's from the bracket right here being so far forward. All your weight ends up on the back of the seat, so he's adjusting that a little bit to allow for comfort on that angle, and not having it come out of adjustment, because you can only pinch that so much.
Push that collar in to release this. This is shaped like a T. It's locked in there with spring pressure, so you have to push the collar in and pull the pin out, then the whole assembly will come out. And apparently there's a tool you can buy that's out of our league. So we just made this up real quick. It's a screw ground off just right, and this pushes the collar in. And that's how we do it. Now the pin's out. And when you let it off, the collar comes out with spring pressure.
Okay.
Pull the whole assembly out and you'll see what happens to them. So this is a pin. Oh my, it's even worse.
Yeah.
So this triangle shaped bracket, here, stick, okay. The way this works is shaped like a triangle, so this can't spin, and this is pinched like a triangle. And when the kickstand is up, this little roll pin is down in that low spot, and then you make it go like this to the ground, and it stays in there. And every time you do that, that grinds. So that has about maybe 10% of its original metal in this pin. So you knock the pin out and put a new one in, and that makes all the difference in the world. So we'll remove this. Now this is a solid pin, which we don't have because we're not buying one. We're using a spring pin or a roll pin, which won't last as long as theirs because it's hollow. But it still makes them like new. So say this bike is 20 some years old and this is the first time this has been done. So even if it only lasts 5 years or 7, what's it matter? Because we're basically repairing this for almost free. So we'll set this here. So what you do, this one's hard to get because it's so misshapen.
Those guys in the bike shops have it all fancy. Oh, workbench at man height.
So that's how worn it was. So the tension was gone. So then we don't have even the right size spring pin. So we have to cut them off with a grinder.
Hey, I want to go swing with you.
That's what I was going to ask. So we've just got like 1-inch pins and you have to make it the length that you need.
Yeah, I'll show you right here. The closest thing we have, this is the correct diameter. So see, it's not going to last as long. If you wanted to buy that or make that, it would last a lot longer. And that's the only length we have that's close. So we just zip that off after it's in.
Okay.
And I always put the body of it facing where it wears, so you at least have a little more wear. Okay, I'll go over to the wood, pound it in.
So they just did this on the 7 the other day, and he started riding the 7 instead of riding the 4 because he was having to strap up that kickstand.
Okay, so what we've got here is it's driven in to the same as this washer here. So everything beyond the washer on this side, we'll just cut it off, and then it'll work. So I'll go cut that off.
So I just wanted to show you the roll pin that we're using up close. This is a pack that we get. This is Tractor Supply multi-pack. He says it's the 3/32 inch roll pin. And this is what he used to cut it and make it shorter. But like I said, if you've got a bench grinder, you could shorten it that way if you had to. It has to be cut short to fit into the tube. So that's the original on top, and then the new one. So for this multi-pack of 100, 170 pieces was probably $5.
Right. But if you didn't have this,
Yeah, if you didn't have this, you could just get
round stock.
round stock, he calls it, which is just solid metal.
Yeah.
Cut to the length that you want.
Which probably would last longer than what we're doing, but we're not spending anything.
And if you didn't have that, you could probably go to a machinist. Like car parts places, sometimes the old ones have a machinist that can cut you a piece if they don't already have it there.
Ready?
Okay, so he trimmed that off with his handheld grinder. You could use a bench grinder and hold it with your pliers, however you need.
So then you have to check this when you put it back in. So it has to go from here to here when you're using it. This is a triangle and this is, if I remember right, there's only one way it can go, which is that way. That's with it up. Is that right? No, that's not right. Right there. When you're parked, it's here. When you're riding, it's here. This triangle fits in there.
So you're pushing that triangle back into place and then pulling the stem out to there. Or Trey has a separate. Oh, Trey has a separate pin. Okay.
So now, protect the paint again. Okay, I'm gonna twist it a little bit. You wanna...
What do these do? Huh? What do these do?
Whoops.
Screws? Yeah. Those, I'm pretty sure that
On the last one, we had to put vice grips on here
that
to get it
makes
most of the
as
way.
far
So his
as
pin is sitting right on that ridge.
The pin goes in here,
So if I
and then the spring pressure pushes this to the point where the T-shaped pin can never come out of here because this is always pushing it over. So the T part of the little pin is always trapped over beyond the hole right here. And yesterday, we had to push this in most of the way, hold it, and then get a different grip and a different angle. What happens, this gets cockeyed in here and doesn't want to go because we don't have the right tool with the collar that goes all the way around mostly. So we're not doing it. So yesterday we had to push it in a bit, pinch it. You want to go get another set of vice grips?
Yeah.
We'll do that. This time it just went right in on its own.
Okay.
So all you do is drop this in, and as soon as you let off,
It pinches
it's
it.
pinched forever.
Okay.
So now, okay, flip it over and give it a try. This bike, all you had to do was pick the back up and drop it, or wiggle it even, and it just fell. It would not stay at all.
Why was the bike wiggling?
The screw that held it together was loose. And it's 20 years old.
Huh? Wait, what?
It's a 23-year-old bike.
All set.
When I'm bigger, that will be my bike.
Yeah, it will be your bike. This was his 17-year-old brother's bike this month. And now it's his bike. So that is how you do a kickstand repair if it's dropping down, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Here, drop the bike like this.